Man, I'm having major deja vu here tonight because at some point, a couple years ago maybe, a year and a half ago, I don't know, at some point I sat in the same hotel, maybe not this exact room, but definitely on this same side of the hotel, looking out at the same parking lot, recording an episode. And I believe I talked about Bram Stoker's Dracula because there's one real near here, which I did not go seek out and find because I'm tired. But we're going to do episode 173, and we're going to do it from Maine. Let's go. Welcome to Coast2Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It's commentary. And I'm a man out of quarters coming to you not live from Bangor, Maine, here on a cool but muggy feeling Monday night, June 15th, 2015. I think we're really near the 2-year anniversary of Coast2Coast Pinball. I don't actually know when that is. I'll try and look that up at some point if we have a little break in the show. I know I recorded here one time because there's a little rinky-dink movie theater right next to this hotel that had a Bram Stoker's Dracula and I believe a Surfin' Safari. And I went and played them and talked about them in my early days on this show. I remember that very specifically. Welcome. How are you tonight? It's good to be here. I hope it's good to be wherever you are. A lot of stuff going on, and I'm getting ramped up at the end of the week. To go to Atlanta to the Southern Fried Game Room Expo. That is going to be a ton of fun. There's news in the world, and for this news, we will turn to the Pinside pinball forums to dive in and use their magical board of messages to keep up with the news as we so do on
Forum Static.
So, not the best kept secret in the world, I will admit, but Spooky Pinball has announced the theme of game number 2 from Spooky Pinball. It will not be Pinball Zombies from Beyond the Grave. They had announced that there would be a licensed theme taking over that game, reimagining the game? Whatever. Rob Zombie's Spook Show International is the official title for Spooky Pinball Game number 2. I can say this now because it's been announced. I've been wanting to spill this secret so bad, but I can't do that to Charlie. He showed me at the Texas Pinball Festival a very, very early little rough sketch and just said, hey, do you want to see the next theme? And I'm like, yeah, not realizing the torment it would put me through not being able to talk about it for months. And he showed me, I believe on his phone, a black and white sketch of what would be the early rough draft of Rob Zombie's Spook Show International, and it looked awesome. And he is so excited, and I'm like, it's weird because America's Most Haunted sold out. I was really happy for Spooky Pinball, for Ben, Charlie, KT, and the gang. Really happy to get mine. I have game number 22 of America's Most Haunted. Love it. So much fun. And in some ways, I'm actually more excited and happy, and I don't know if proud is the right word. It's like that sense of pride in something that you had nothing to do with. Sort of like when you watch, Rocky, and you're so proud of Rocky, even though you didn't really have anything to do with it, but you're like, yeah, this is a good story. So in that regard, I'm really proud of Spooky Pinball the last few days, watching them unveil Rob Zombie's Spook Show International at the Rocky Mountain Pinball Showdown. And they did it with pizzazz. They had a video with Rob Zombie himself talking about he has a pinball game now. It lists the songs that are going to be in the game. Kind of gives people a feel for the Rob Zombie kind of look and art feel. It was said early on they couldn't say who the artist was doing the artwork for game number 2 because it would give it away. And in my head, after Charlie had shown me that it was a Rob Zombie game, I thought it was Rob Zombie was the artist because I know he does a lot of artwork, but it's actually not. It's a guy named Alex Horley who does like dark type comic evil horror art who works with Rob Zombie. So I guess if you had Googled that, you would have probably quickly found out, or those who are really into Rob Zombie in that genre would have found out. So pretty fantastic. Here's the quick rundown, and we can talk about this more in the future. I would like to, of course, try and get Charlie on the show. I will have Ben Heck all to myself for an hour in Atlanta this weekend doing a seminar at the Southern Fried Game Room Expo, so I'm sure we'll get into it with the AMH talk as well. But they're going to build 300 of these games. They're building 300 because that is the most they feel they can comfortably get built in the time that they have this license. It's a 3-year license, and I think the clock is ticking now. So they still have to finish building America's Most Haunted, which they are projecting to be finished by the end of the year. And then they have to build game number 2, and they got to get them built in a timely manner. It's not an open-ended run. I think people don't understand that nothing's ever really open-ended, because if you have a license theme, you definitely have a time on the license, and that puts pressure on. And people say, oh, we'll just extend the license, but something I can tell you, having dealt with licensed products in the guitar world and talking to other people at other companies who deal with licensed products, something pretty common happens with licensed products, and this is by design, no doubt, is I will sell you the license to, what do I own? I own the license to Nate Shivers' Magic Guy Pinball. So I'm going to sell you the license to Nate Shivers' Magic Guy Pinball, and it's going to be for 1 year. And let's say we agree you can build 100 of them. And at the end of the year, let's say you build 75 of them. Well, your license is up. And if you'd like to build those other 25, we can do that. But I'm going to make you pay for it. I'm going to up the amount you're going to pay me. Or, let's say you sell 100 in the time frame and you say, Nate, I want to build more Nate Shivers Magic Guy pinball machines. This game's going over great. I can expand my market and I can finally ship to Europe. I can finally ship to Australia. I'm going to say, oh, that's awesome. That's great. So you've made money and you've recouped all your startup costs and all your development costs. Cool. My cut's going to be a lot bigger on the second 100. So that's kind of how that works in a nutshell. And I know you're sitting there thinking, but yeah, let's say it's an original theme. Let's say, you're going to build your own friendly listener Magic Guy pinball machine, and there's no license. Well, you still got to buy parts. You still got to, have a business plan. There's still sort of an end game on that, right? Unless you're building things in such small runs that you can literally just, build a few at a time, I guess. So, in any case, with a license, there's a limit on what you're going to get. So 300. They're going to build 50 limited editions. And when Charlie had told me that, I cocked my head sideways like, oh, really, Mr. I don't like limited editions. 50 limited editions. And he said, but wait, hold on, Nate, it's only the back glass and the armor are going to change. And I thought, that's a great idea. Because, and remind you, he told me this at the first day, probably in the first few hours of the Texas Pinball Festival. And if you'll remember, AMH was not yet sold out. They hadn't had that big rush at Spooky Pinball where they got all these sales. And it was like, oh my gosh, we left games on the table. Because I'm telling you, once AMH really started getting out there and they started going to the shows with the game, and it just kind of had to sink in, I think, to the pinball world at large that, oh, these funny guys with the podcast up in Wisconsin are building like real pinball machines. Like, these things are good. They could have sold more than the 150. They put the hard cap limit on it, I think, as a way to just move on with themselves. I remember Ben Heck said to me in person, there's no way we sell 150 of these. He goes, maybe 100. They were in like the 30s or 40s sold when they I think decided on 150. So they didn't see that coming, and then all of a sudden the ramp up happened. It accelerated, it went fast, and they're gone. And probably for the best, I think, because it creates this buzz, and now you have people who want on the spooky train, right? Because the goodwill they have bought themselves by doing this the right way, by this slow and steady wins the race, such a cliche, and it's so true here. They have people who want to be a part of what they're doing, and the pinball community is in dire need of the success stories that Spooky Pinball is, that I believe Highway Pinball is going to be, that I believe Dutch Pinball is going to be, and there's more. But those are just right now. We need that. So 300. And some people were really upset, like, why only 300? Why would you limit yourself? Look how quickly you sold that last run of AMHs. Well, the license is 3 years long, and they need to make sure they can build these games. So, also, I truly believe when they decided on 300, I don't know that they thought it was a sure thing, slam dunk, we'll sell 300 of these games. I think that sort of in their minds, and this is me totally just guessing here, I think they thought that was a pretty lofty number. I would be willing to guess, if I were a fly on the wall during their drive back all the way to Benton, Wisconsin from Denver, Colorado, I'll bet they were sitting there saying, wow, we're going to sell all of these things. Because I saw the comments, I saw their reactions to the comments and the emails they were getting. The LEs, the 50 limited editions with the different backglass and the different armor, are spoken for. Now, those are not final. Those are not gone. No games are sold yet. But those games are spoken for, from what I understand. I think they will sell all 300. Now, the big caveat is, nobody's seen the game yet, right? Like, how crazy is this? Nobody even knows what we're talking about, what we're looking at. But the goodwill that Spooky has bought by getting America's Most Haunted done and proving they can build a great, fun game has bought them the goodwill, coupled with the theme of Rob Zombie. Now, Rob Zombie is a fairly, I think, niche, if you will, choice of a theme, but in the pinball world, in this group of people that leans heavy towards, male 30 to 50 years old. That's where a large portion of the pinball buying community just happens to fall. I'd love that to expand in other directions, obviously. But that's where a lot of the buyers tend to be. The theme isn't quite as niche as you might believe, because Rob Zombie's he's one of those people that if you like him, you love him. And if you don't like him, not a lot of reasons to hate Rob Zombie. The guy's clearly creative. The music, I lived in Phoenix, Arizona in the late 90s and early 2000s, and they overplayed White Zombie and Rob Zombie to the point I never needed to hear a lot of those songs ever again. I'm actually a pretty big fan of those first couple White Zombie records. Like, I was in high school for those. I really liked those. The Rob Zombie solo stuff was sort of this more, I saw it described on the internet in one of the threads as, was it groove metal? I think was the term, and that's pretty appropriate. Like, driving beats, hooky. It's hooky metal. It's not thrashy or anything like that. And Rob plays a character. Rob Zombie is a living character. He's this, crazy guy. He's also a movie maker. I like horror movies. I'm a big horror fan. Teresa can't stand horror movies. She can't deal with the violence or the blood, and it freaks her out. But I do like horror movies, and I actually like the Rob Zombie horror movies. I like the characters. I like the grindhouse, low budget kind of vibe that those movies have. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I think the theme plays 300 games easily. Like, I think it plays 300. It doesn't play 1,000 games, I don't believe. I don't think it's like Stern level theme. But if Stern had wanted to do 300 to 500 games, I think, Rob Zombie would have been a fine theme for them. But I'm glad to see that Spooky got it, 'cause Charlie's a huge Rob Zombie theme. He's talked about wanting to do a Rob Zombie game for a long time. So this is really another great thing. Now, here's the big, but wait, hold on. We gotta see what the game is like, right? Pinball Zombies from Beyond the Grave. I saw that game the same day I saw America's Most Haunted for the first time. Pinball Zombies from Beyond the Grave was a completely different design. It's designed by Charlie, and he was very much originally going for old school. I believe his early idea was not even to have a DMD. He was going to do alphanumeric. It was a more open play field with more randomized placement of pop bumpers. There were slingshots everywhere. If you go to YouTube, I believe I have a video from the Midwest Gaming Classic 2014 of the Pinball Zombies from Beyond the Grave. And I really appreciated what he had done as like a first swing at it. All right? It certainly wasn't done. And it was really odd to me that weekend, because there's so much attention that weekend to the artwork. I kept hearing artwork, and I'm like, I don't know, the artwork's gonna be fine, they'll fix that. It didn't seem like a big deal to me. People really got all over the artwork on that game. I actually love the Pinball Zombies from Beyond the Grave backglass, and I would actually like to get one someday, because that's I mean, talk about collectability. This game's not even ever gonna be made. But anyway, the gameplay was actually what worried me, because it wasn't the randomization and chaos that bothered me. Some people have compared it to like a narrow body black hole, where you got this wide open space and slingshots on the side. That wasn't what worried me. What worried me was there wasn't a lot to shoot at. Like, I wasn't really playing and going, okay, I got to hit that. I want to see what this shot does. It was just kind of like, all right, there's one ramp that goes up there and then the ball comes down. I just didn't feel it. And I didn't know Charlie that well at the time. I think it was the first time I met him in person. So I'm not going to be like, hey, I got a podcast too. Your game's not got a lot to shoot at there, buddy. I very much took the high road and said, I think I'm going to buy your other game. The game that you're actually going to be building right now. I'm going to buy that game. And I jumped into the America's Most Haunted thing full on because I did feel that game had tons of stuff to shoot at. Go for it. It was fun. But I was weirdly into Pinball Zombies from Beyond the Grave just because I liked the different layout. I liked that it wasn't a fan layout. I dug it. I just really felt like it was early days for that game. And I think over time, enough people close to Charlie said enough of that sort of thing that he got that. The Rob Zombie game, Spook Show International, will not be that layout. And I see people really confused saying, oh, that game had problems. They better move a pop bumper. I think they've done more than move a pop bumper. I think the game's pretty much a reimagination. Same concept, but I read Charlie's comments about having 5 distinct, major shots to go for. I think it's going to be cool, and I think when you couple that with the music and the artwork, go look up the Alex Horley artwork. I think there is a ton of potential for this thing to be really unique, really cool, and being, again, limited, and from a true boutique company, it's going to be, if nothing else, for a lot of people, something really different and special for their collection. So, now, hey man, I don't know, maybe they get the artwork and it looks bad and it's too busy or sloppy or the colors are wrong and the gameplay still looks like there's not a lot of excitement. Maybe it's a dog. I don't know. We will see, and we will comment on it with no bias as soon as we see it. I look forward to it. I guess what I need to figure out at this point, because the AMH buyers, the 150 people who coughed up money to buy America's Most Haunted, and it's actually probably less than that, because I think some people, is there some distributors that bought a few of them? I'm thinking like the Joe Newharts of the world. I don't know. But anyway, the people who bought America's Most Haunted have first shot to put their name in on the list for the Rob Zombie game. Now, I have been thinking about this. If I do go into this game to put my name to have a spot to buy one, basically, I was already in my head saying I'm not going to do the LE because there's a lot of fans of this game and this theme that really want a Rob Zombie LE. They want the limited one. That's not me. I'm not really into the theme that much. I'm into the company. I'm into the price point. They're keeping the price point $59.95. Hello. They're keeping the price point $59.95. So I'm really into that. I'm really into the idea of a very different type game. But I'm torn because I have other things I also want to buy. But I'm actually considering maybe going and using my power as an AMH buyer and say, hey, I'll take a spot, but put me later on. Put me down the line a little bit. Give me some time. But what's great about this is not a true pre-order. I don't have to send them half my money up front or anything like that. Basically, I put my name on the list, and this goes for any AMH buyer up through, I think, July 4th or July 6th or something like that. And then after that, the public, everyone else who's not on the AMH list, can jump in. And once your name's on the list, they're going to eventually show us the whole game. And once they show us the whole game, and the layout, the art, the concept, to reserve a game, you put $1,000 down, and the rest is due upon shipment. And so if you figure you're at least 6 months, if you're number one, you're at least 6 months away from shipment, probably. That gives you time to pay the game down. It's a nice way you could send in money to Charlie and KT to get it paid down. Thinking if I'm a year and a half out, I can make it pretty painless, support the company, buy the game slowly, and maybe have something cool. I don't know. I haven't made that decision for myself yet, so we'll worry about that later. Already had a ton of emails on this. I shared it on Facebook, and it was, it had hit. I mean, I only have 500 and something Facebook followers, and when I shared it on Facebook, it touched 800 and some people, pretty quickly. So people are into it. People are into the idea, the vibe. It's exciting. It's something positive for pinball. Golf clap. Kudos to Spooky Pinball. I hope to hear more about it real soon, and good stuff, man. Really good stuff. I'm going to try and actually make these fast for once. 5 fast thoughts. I ordered my color DMD for my Metallica. I'm happy. They're back in stock. Got my order in. It should be waiting for me when I get back from this road trip. Very good. Number 2, I'm starting to feel like I'm an honorary member to the Northern California pinball groups and clubs, because I'm getting a ton of email from San Francisco, Bay Area, Northern California players. So I don't know how you all just found me, because a lot of the emails are, hey, I never knew about this podcast. It's great. I'm in the Bay Area. And I'm like, dude, awesome. So welcome San Francisco and Oakland and, I don't know, Modesto. Is that up there? Something. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Here's actually a good piece of news. We had a new blank newsletter from Dutch Pinball, and it came at a great time. I thought 3 days ago, after all this J-pop stuff is going down and it's bad and it's ugly, and what an excellent newsletter to get, because there's cabinets. First cabinets arrived at the production facility in Alten, the Netherlands. I don't know if that's how you say Alten. I have no idea. And then Scott Denisi, who is awesome. Boards being worked on. That's cool. We got light pipes for the GI. Pictures of games being put together. I mean, Dutch Pinball's building the Big Lebowski, folks. It's coming. When I was talking about the Rob Zombie game, and I said I wasn't sure what I was going to do because there's other things I want to buy. I want to buy this game. That's a lie. I got to figure out the money situation. But that game is on my radar, folks. Number 4. I missed this a few weeks ago, but there's a website called HomeLeisureDirect.com, and they did a tour of the Highway Pinball Factory and posted some photos. It is at HomeLeisureDirect.com with /blog/pinball/highway-pinball-factory-tour. Good luck with that. The gist of what you see here is they've got a big factory and they're building pinball machines, which again, excellent. I tell you, one thing I took away from the photos as I was scrolling down, I'm trying to find it again. The lit up side art of Full Throttle looks awesome. Not a huge fan of the back glass myself. I don't love that thin, translitey back glass thing. I'll get over it if the game is compelling. And I'm talking about any game coming from Highway at any point. But the lit up side is really neat. And I think on location where it's not in a line where you can't see it, obviously that'll look fantastic. So the game looks really nice. I mean, I'm looking at Full Throttle. Looks like it's put together cleanly. The art looks, good for what they're going for here. I'm into it. The build looks clean. The factory's for real. For real, folks. Fast thought number 5. Art is becoming a bigger and bigger thing in pinball. Right? Is that the obvious statement of the year? Art is a big deal. You look at what's going on with, the hand-drawn artwork on Kiss, the Dirty Donnie continuing success with Metallica. You look at Highway Pinball hiring Arik Lawson to work on the Alien art design. It's a great move. You look at Spooky Pinball now with Alex Horley. If you're out there, whoever you are, if you're at Stern or you're at XYZ Pinball, who's going to build the Nate Shivers Magic Guy Pinball LE, you better cross your T's and dot your I's on your artwork, because that is really going to be, I think, one of the biggest points in not just selling your game, but really creating excitement. This is such a visual medium. I know the game's got to be good, but it's got to look good. These are big boxes with tons of art on them that we're putting in our homes. We want them to look nice. The Big Lebowski, that thing hit with the artwork and the back glass, and it was that no one even thought twice. It's an instant barrier down when you really do your job and get the art right, selling a pinball machine. So, I don't know. Fast thought number 5, I just wrote down the word art. Not the guy from Everclear.
Check the email.
All right, it's all mailbag for the rest of the show. I can do this. I have so much email, and I went through my Gmail folder at Coast2Coast Pinball at gmail.com, and I used the starred feature, which I never use in Gmail, but I used the starred feature and starred a ton of emails that were fairly relevant to what's going on right now. And here we go. Hey Nate, so I heard about your podcast while listening to other pinball podcasts and kind of avoided it for a while as I thought to myself, how is one guy by himself going to make a good pinball podcast? Once I finally listened to most of the other podcasts, I decided, what the heck, I'll give it a listen. I have to say I really love the podcast. I've been listening for about 2 weeks straight, and I'm up to episode 87. I listen to and from my way to work, but my commute is only 20 minutes. I've spent most of my time listening in the evenings and weekends while developing and building my mod for Jurassic Park. I loved the episode where you gave Jurassic Park its due props. It's one of my favorite games. The mod I'm working on is a functional gate that goes above the ramp. It's 3D printed and hand painted and is programmed to open when bone busting mode, the ramp mode, is activated. Has flickering LEDs for the torches, and I think it adds so much more than a flat piece of plastic with mediocre art. If you get a chance, check it out. And he gives me a link to the Pinside thread for Gate Mod for Jurassic Park. Get on the wait list. It looks awesome. It looks like the gate from Jurassic Park. I'm going to admit something to you right now, friendly listeners. Jurassic World just had like the largest opening of all time in movie theaters here in the United States. Teresa got really on me when I recently told her, I've actually never seen any of the Jurassic Park movies all the way through. I don't know how I missed all those movies, and like, I could actually tell you kind of the storyline of the first one, and like the dude from Seinfeld gets killed after he drops the shaving cream. Like, I've seen enough of them here and there on TV over the years, but I actually have never seen a Jurassic Park all the way through. I don't know. I thought I had maybe, but then I watched a lot of one recently with Teresa, and I had never seen it. So I'm going to go see Jurassic World, though, because that Chris Pratt, boy, what a guy. So this mod looks awesome. It looks very cool. I love it. Jurassic Park, you know, I guess you guys probably know there's like other rules being written for a Jurassic Park based off some other hardware that's being attached to it. I don't know how deep I'm going to get into that right now, but Jurassic Park is one of those just classic pinball games that really does inspire people. To a lot of people, it's their favorite game. Like, it's their favorite game. And I think it's great. And the work that goes into something as simple as this mod here that new friendly listener Tim is devising. He's posted, you know, like, I don't know if this isn't CAD, is it? But it's some sort of rendering. A lot of work and effort goes into these, and then to hand paint them, and it just looks really cool. I love this stuff. I don't talk a lot about mods on this show because I personally don't buy a lot of mods, because I think I've said this before on the show. I'm the one who plays 98% of the games played on my games. Teresa's the other 2%. I don't have a lot of folks over, and mods to me, I don't know. Money I could put towards more games or the next game, and then I'm always thinking, am I going to sell this game? I don't want to spend the money on the mod, but I think I'm like in the minority. I think a lot of people, when they buy games for the home, they're trying to make them as great as they can make them, so the mods play into that, and this one's really cool. Great work, Tim. Let's see, blah blah blah. Congrats on your AMH. Listening to the last couple of episodes and hearing you talk about it had me sending Katie Emery an email to see if I could get on the wait list in case anyone backs out. I agree, the theme is awesome and looks fun. Can't wait for this weekend. Spooky will be here at Rocky Mountain. I will not be at the show, as he knows now. So actually, I emailed Tim to make sure I was cool to talk about this on the show, and he said yes, and he said he was listening to episode 96, which I was like, wow, what could I have possibly been talking about in episode 96? Apparently, he informed me I was talking about the year 1996 in episode 96, which now I clearly remembered. All right, thank you very much for the email. Let's see here. Hi, Nate. I'm sitting here at work, headphones on, laughing as I listen to you talking about Stu from Melbourne talking about me and Shane and Martin getting him into pinball. So thanks for the shout out and the show. The correct pronunciation rhymes with Wes, by the way, because this email is from someone named, I think I pronounced it Che or Ches, Ches, it's Ches, Wes, Ches, I guess. Sorry, Ches. I'm loving the tips from Bowen, by the way. Keep doing that. And as someone who doesn't have the time for forums anymore, thanks for the updates on the Zidware, Skitby, etc. You know, it's actually amazing, friendly listener, how many people email me and tell me they're not on Pinside. I think in my head, everybody's on Pinside, and there are a lot of people into this hobby actually not on Pinside. And often I meet people out in the wild who are actually out playing pinball who are not on Pinside, because I think instead of being on Pinside, they go out and play pinball. I need to do more of that. Let's see. It's fascinating in a car crash kind of way. Why do people giving money to these companies? There's no way I'd be giving $5,000 plus to anyone who can't show me a working product. P.S. I'll be on the West Coast in August and September driving around California and Oregon. What pinball stuff should I do? I'd love if you could share some local knowledge. Sounds like you'll be north of me. Oh my gosh. Free Gold Watch, San Francisco. Ton of stuff in the Bay Area. By all means, check out. That's when you should get on Pinside. Go look there. Oregon, Portland's got a scene. Go back and listen to my episode with Greg Dunlap. He talks about the scene in Portland, so there's tons of stuff there. I'm actually thinking I'm making the drive from San Diego to Seattle soon, and maybe I'll get to do a little preemptive looking on that again, which I did a while back. But anyway, all right, thank you for the email. All right, next up. Hey Nate, wondering if you saw the W.C. Brandis post about J-Pop's books and numbers, $7,500 per month salary, etc., etc. I was a huge fan of J-Pop, and it still seems crazy to watch this all collapse. I appreciate the in-depth coverage, even though it didn't seem like a fun subject. Keep up the great work, Eric. I did see that. If you don't know what that was referencing, in the giant, mega, 15,000 plus message thread on the J-Pop situation, W.C. Brandis, who started the Pantasia group, who was going to attempt to complete Magic Girl, who is now no longer attempting to complete Magic Girl, made an interesting post about the books. A lot of people said, you got to go through the books, got to look at the books, got to look at the books. Money, is there money? And people are, considering legal action against Sidware, and Bill Brandis said, yes, I actually did see the books, and he had been paying himself $7,500 a month for the time that this was going on. And a lot of people reacted like, whoa, that's a lot of money, or whoa, that's not that much money, or whatever. So yeah, I saw that, and honestly, that's probably what I would have guessed, somewhere in that ballpark. It just still blows me away, and I really don't want to get into all this right now. I just will say, though, that every time I start looking at the math of this whole project and the whole company, and looking at things John had said over the years, and looking at just the numbers of games he wanted to build, and how long it was all taking, I don't understand how it went on as long as it did without just... It just simply didn't add up. Like, it just doesn't, right? I don't know. Horse dead, beaten. I get it. All right. Here we go. Hey, Nate. I live in Reno. I was born in Reno, by the way. I live in Reno and will be heading to California Extreme this July. Are you going to be there? Would love to challenge you for a duel. Oh, I see that reference. I know what you're referencing. We could play dollar game of your choice. Missing the Teresa segments. You should do a shirt in white, as I don't recall one in that color. All right, so I will not be at California Extreme. Teresa and I did not take a honeymoon when we got married last year, and this year we're sort of taking our honeymoon, and it happens to come across during California Extreme. So I will miss California Extreme again. Sorry. I'd love to get up there for that. Some other day, Jerry, we will challenge each other to a duel for dollar games. You can choose the game, or I'll just give you my dollar, whatever you want to do. Anybody that's that confident, I know, is going to beat me. Missing Teresa. Yeah, I got to get Teresa back on. Teresa needs to play more pinball if she wants to come back on this show. No, actually, the Rob Zombie thing, she'll want to comment on that, I'm sure, when I get back to California. Should I do a shirt in white? Yeah, I actually probably will be doing another shirt soonish. I'm fairly low on blue and red shirts right now, so when I get a little bit lower, I could do white, I guess. I never do white shirts. White shirts get dirty. I'm messy. Thank you for the email, Jerry. I appreciate it. Hi, Nate. Suggestion for your show. The Pinball Podcast just did a top 5 segment on their top 5 most wanted pins. Would be curious to hear about your current list. Hope to see you at Southern Fried. Mark. I saw this email yesterday and thought, I'll sit down and I'll put together a list of my top 5 most wanted games. Well, I did not do that because I'm traveling. I'm doing stuff for work. But I will, on the fly, tell you what my top 5 games are. All right. In no particular order. I'm not holding this to an order, so just be clear about that. The Big Lebowski, That's definitely on my top 5 most wanted games. I want that game. Really excited to see where the code ends up with that game and what the gameplay is like and the modes. I really, really very much excited for that. Let's see. A Tron Pro, because Tron LEs are just too expensive. A Tron Pro, because I like the game. I do like the game Tron. However, more than that, Teresa loves the game Tron. Like, loves it. Like, we'll go somewhere that'll have, like, say, 10 pinball machines. If one of them's Tron, that's the only game she'll play. That's all she cares about. So that would definitely be on my list. Now I gotta really think here. Part of me wants to put Kiss on there just because it's a new game that I haven't played yet. Like, I want to play the new game. Hopefully I get to see one this weekend in Atlanta. I'm actually scrolling through the Pinside Top 100 right now to see if anything jumps out at me. This changes. Champion Pub for a long time was really, really in my top games I wanted. And I've gotten to play a lot of Champion Pub at a few places over the last few years, and I still like the game. I actually still like Champion Pub a lot. But, referencing a piece of forum static that never happened, it is one of those games that I think does get stale after a while. And I'm sure it would to me in the home environment. I can tell you a game that I've been really jonesing to have some time on, and that's X-Men. I really screwed up because I had a chance to buy a really cheap X-Men Pro probably a year ago, and I didn't do it. And I would like X-Men because I'm not very good at it. And there's some really tight shots on that game, and I think games like that will make me better. And I want to be better because I want to do better in tournaments. And I kind of like the vibe of that game. Some people rip on the call-outs to that game, but I like some of the music, and I'm kind of into X-Men. X-Men's definitely on my list. Walking Dead, I think after talking to Josh about the new Walking Dead rules, I'm all over Walking Dead. I would really, really like to have a Walking Dead for a while. I don't see that as something I'd own forever. And then I would say I'm kind of on the lookout for a couple different things. I'm on the lookout for something like a late 70s Gottlieb game, like a Joker Poker, or I don't know, like an Atlantis, or something kind of older and cool with a vibe. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a single player game or a 4-player game. Just all sorts of different games. Just one of the really fun older games, and that could extend all the way out into like early 80s games too, like a Centaur or I don't know. There's a bunch. There's some old games right now. I've been playing Flight 2000 on the Pinball Arcade lately. Spoiling a question that we're going to get to in a little bit, I think. Because this weekend at the Southern Fried Game Room Expo in the Classics tournament on the game list, there is a Flight 2000. And it's not a game I was very familiar with. Old Stern game I've seen before and just kind of ignored. But I love space themes, and I really like the shots that you're forced to make in that game to get to the multi-ball. It's cool. So something like that. I don't know. So I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but that's the best I can do on the fly. All right. Let's see. Next question. Where are we at? Already read that. Oh, exactly what I was just thinking about. Hi, Nate. I recently found your show after seeing one of your shirts at the Ann Arbor Pinball event. Would have been cool to meet you, but I don't think you were there on Saturday night. I was not. My question is, do you play virtual pinball? I'm a big fan of the Pinball Arcade and wondered what you think of it. Really excited to go back and start at episode 1 and work my way forward. Not sure how I missed your show so far. All the best, Nathan. Well, Nathan, you have a lot of episodes to listen to. Wow. Yes, I do play Farsight's The Pinball Arcade on my iPad. I've actually been playing it a lot more lately, and I don't know why I haven't been talking about it on the show, but I've been doing lots of, transcontinental flights. I've been really getting into it, and I'm doing it not so much in like an effort to score the biggest points on that game, because that doesn't really excite me on the game, because as good as they've gotten, the physics still just aren't real. The ball just still moves in a way that's not really like a pinball. And that's okay, because I really like getting to learn the games. So what I've been doing is I've been picking a game or two at a time and like reading the rules, because the rules are really well broken out on the Pinball Arcade, and it shows you what scores what points, tells you how to understand a game. A game like, let me think of one, Fishtails. I've never been a huge fan of Fishtails. I don't like the way the shots line up. I've never played it well. I don't like lightning flippers. But this one was a while back, but when I sat down with the Pinball Arcade version of it, really read through the rules, and really figured out how that whole game works and what every shot does, suddenly I find myself kind of liking Fishtails on some level. So I find that I am just a typical human being. Here, I'm going to get all philosophical on you for a second. What causes a lot of the anger and hate in this world, right? It's because you fear of what you don't know. And I think I'm really bad like that sometimes with pinball machines, where if the theme doesn't draw me in, or something puts me off about the art or the sound package, and I never learned the rules or really learned what they were going for in the design and the idea, I don't like it. I turn my back to the game, and I'm like, I don't like you. And then later, and I'm looking right at you, Creature from the Black Lagoon, a game I actually was totally drawn into by the artwork, but never connected with something about it. But when I really figured it all out and just saw how it all worked, I kind of went, oh yeah, this is great. This is actually brilliant. And Fishtails does that for me too, because there's some really cool stuff in that game. So that's why I love the Pinball Arcade, because it gives me a great opportunity to do that. All right, we got a few more here. Hey Nate, question for on or off the air. Now that Kiss and Rob Zombie pins have been officially announced, what other bands would make good pinballs? Iron Maiden seems to get talked about a lot, but I'm not sure if they are popular enough with Americans. Loving all the great interviews lately. Ed Robertson seemed like a really great down-to-earth guy. Thanks in advance, Marcus. Great question, Marcus. Iron Maiden is one of those themes, sort of like Rob Zombie, that I think would do really well for a limited run. I think if you were out to sell 250 or 300 games, you'd probably be okay. It gets tough because, bands post 1990 don't really lend themselves to the visuals and the artistic flair, I think, that some classic bands did and some like rock bands did of the 80s. And a lot of the rock bands in the 80s, I'm thinking like Motley Crue and GNR, which obviously Guns N' Roses has a pinball machine made after them. Those bands had some of that kind of, really iconic artwork. But at this point, there's not a lot of those bands left that would, I think, translate too well to the modern pinball game. So it's tough. You look at a band like the Rolling Stones, one of the greatest bands of all time, right? Didn't really work as a pinball machine. I mean, forget that the mic on a stick and the gameplay wasn't all that great. It's still, even just the visuals of the Rolling Stones, it wasn't all that compelling. That's where Rob Zombie has a big leg up on a lot of things, because the visuals are going to be awesome. And you get too metal, you get into, like Slayer and things like that. I don't think that plays to a wide enough audience. Iron Maiden's close. I don't know. I think, I think Alice Cooper is another one that could be limited run potential. I'm sure there's other ones, and I would have to put some more thought into it, think about it. But you start looking at who are the really big bands. I mean, it's Led Zeppelin, right? And I know there's a homebrew game being talked about on the internet and being worked on and actually in production for this homebrew one-off game, but I mean, that's the one that I think of. Pink Floyd certainly has the visuals. I don't know if the music is exactly right. And I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. Like, I'm big into Pink Floyd. I don't know if that music would work for pinball exactly. And I don't know if you're going to get that license. So the Beatles, of course, could probably, again, work. But that's another really tough get on the license. So I find myself going back to the classic bands, the bands of the 60s and 70s. I don't know. We'll talk about that more. Do I have time for another one? Do I have time? I have one more. Okay. Michael, you're getting the last one read here. Hey man, just listen to episode 164, and your talk on price walls kind of freaked me out. Because you were talking, and I realized I've done the exact same thing. I bought a really beat-up Data East Simpsons for $750 a few years ago, and thought that was a ton of money. Then I found a decent Dr. Dude on eBay for $1,300 and felt crazy spending over $1,000. Then I got a better job, made more money, and bought my holy grail pin, the Addams Family, for $5,000. I was done. I was absolutely done until Star Trek was announced by Stern, and I had to have an LE. Now I'm really considering a Hobbit. And he wrote, arg, arg. I think Michael's a pirate, apparently. Thanks so much for the insight and laughs. C2C is my favorite and most look forward to podcast ever. Hopefully going to Expo this year. Hope I can say hello in person. Hey, man. Hello in person. You can say it. I promise. Michael, that ends the show. That's episode 173 of Coast to Coast Pinball. I gotta go to bed. I don't know if we're going to get another shot this week, but I wanted to get one done and say congrats to Spooky Pinball and read some of these emails. Thank you guys for all the feedback. It warms my heart. Play more pinball, etc., etc., etc. Take care of yourselves. Bye.